Hi, video on how to understand the different layers of liquidity and why we have used a time lag and an irregular liquidity. Here I'm just looking at the VIX. I'm looking at a well-traded CFD product. The better traded items are, the clearer the liquidity will become. The less traded they are, less volume in them, the less clear they'll be. So we can see here that this VIX has had several periods of buying. The green here is very tight liquidity, and when we don't see price discovery and we see tight liquidity, we're generally having a build. We can also see that in the DPI, the dark pool index that we have on our Naked Delta website. And then this sort of liquidity here is reactive liquidity. So obviously as the price of VIX goes up and the people are chasing the ask, it becomes tighter. And then as the price drops and the liquidity loosens, we get reactive liquidity to the loosening side. We can see here in the time lag how this tightening has hung on through the different periods. If we just look at maybe a 2 hour, we can see how we've had these tightening periods. Here's a tightening period, here's another tightening period, and then it's taken, and this is the reactive liquidity, and then it takes just quite a long time, if we spread this out, for it to work its way through. And during that period, when we have already got tight liquidity, we only need a pump on the surface to get some price discovery. So here we can see we've got tight liquidity, and let's find a better spot. Here we've got tightening liquidity, and then we see this surface pump here on the closest time period, and then we get a little bit more price discovery. And to the opposite side, we're starting to see loose liquidity here, and we can see that the closest liquidity is racing up and becoming looser and looser. And so we've gone through quite a strong period here of loose liquidity, and has slowly given us the downside. We've now been sitting in quite a neutral position with liquidity. Could go either way, and as we can see here, we've got some in the time lag here, we've got some looser liquidity sitting on the longer time scale, and then every now and then we see a tightening period in the surface liquidity, and we've seen that in the last 2 or 3 days. We've seen quite a lot of tightening. The nice thing about the irregular liquidity indicator here is that it takes account of the Globex trading periods, and so it gives us a better idea of what the movement is like comparatively to previous periods of time, and it's another sharper way of looking at what's happening. So from that setup, we could see, if I go to what was a beautiful trading period over the last week, we had some difficult periods. Here we've had quite a strong build, and then we've had this very quickly move to the surface, and we've had some sharp pullbacks. And then we've had a looser period through Thursday, and then into this tightening on Friday. Friday's tightening was a very interesting tightening. We had a loose period during the start of the trading period, while some positions were being built. And as those positions were being built, if we go and have a look on the 5-minute period, we can see this beautiful position in build. We have got no price discovery. We had this very, very tight period of positions being built into the close, and it was just it was a great trade. There was very little price discovery because we knew we had this underlying tightness. It was, when we see the surface liquidity loosen like that, that puts us off. But when we see even the surface liquidity during this whole period has stayed tight, it wasn't really until we saw that bump into the close that the surface liquidity loosened off, which obviously happens when we get into the close on a Friday afternoon. People close, positions are closed, and liquidity loosens up and goes right down. But as you can see, these several pumps have led to the upward price discovery, and then we can just see here that there's been very little price action here, but we can see it's remained tight the whole way through. So you could have entered a position quite early, not trying to pick the time that it's going to explode, but it did explode later into the day as the market makers moved their way through the OPEX. Anyway, I hope that helps you understand the liquidity indicators. These two are part of our package of indicators that you can get just with the TradingView indicators, or you could also get them with our Essentials package, which also has the DPI and the other data. I hope that helps you. Have a good week's trading. Thank you.